Thank you. Thank you.
They do look great.
Thank you. I started that about 6 months ago, and it took.
Yes, I saw that note, yeah.
Thank you. It's really more on, it's really on Temple, but the tax statement, it's really on Bill funds, but the tax statement come on Temple. Right there. Right by the Dutch.
Okay, all right, I got it. We'll make sure it gets to the right place. I've got hard copies. Or do you have a flash drive?
You ready? All right, are we ready? I'd like to officially call to order this meeting of the Park and Downtown Improvement Corporation. If you'll please stand and join me in an invocation. Dear God, we pause in this moment to reflect on your goodness and your mercies. We pray for your continued blessings over this community and the people that call it home. Lord, please guide our decisions, our steps. May everything be for your honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. So join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
I just have to say, as city staff, it's really hard to say that when you don't have Greg Shumpert that like leads the meeting, keeps us going really, really fast.
We'll work on that. We'll work on that. Any remarks from visitors? Hearing none, I'll ask our board to review the minutes from our February 14th meeting.
I do have a correction.
Yes, Sarah has a correction to the minutes.
I was at the meeting and I do believe I voted.
Okay.
Are you sure? I'm positive.
All right.
Yes, they left me off.
Reflect Sarah's attendance at our February 14th meeting.
Well, I was attending, but then when you get over here under the votes,
Oh, okay.
it wasn't noted. Even,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
even a motion I made, I didn't vote for.
All right, we'll try to catch you today, doing good things. Any other corrections or additions to the minutes? All right.
Motion to approve the minutes with the change for the February 14th.
Thank you, Mary. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sarah Kegris. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. At this time, I'll call on Raylan for the financial report.
Good morning. In your packet is your financial report. There are no updates. Where you'll see the expenses since our last meeting is we have had some more invoices come in for your park improvements, which you'll get an update from Glenn and his staff here in just a little bit. So those are moving right along.
Raylan, can you walk me through the section on page 7, the balance report as of 5/23, the difference between cash in bank, clearing fund, and Texas range?
So that I continue to show on your financials because you received the cash in bank report from our finance department in May. And so I just kind of hold that there on the financials so that, because that was the last time that we received the cash balances. We have the January financials that were reported to City Council on Tuesday. And so we also have Mr. Mills and a new finance director that are working on getting an update. And I had talked to them couple of weeks ago about trying to schedule a time to come in so that we can really go through your deposits for the last year, the revenue stream, and that way before you go into your final budget adoption, you'll know, we'll have another cash balance report.
So is it your understanding that as of 5/23, our cash, our deposit balance is over 3 million? Or
So-
our balance is 876,000?
So so the balance report, these were your actual 3 funds on that day. So please keep in mind that since then, you've had revenue streams coming in. This was just the last time your account balances were reported to you. So while we continue to keep the budget and revenue, as far as revenue and expenses throughout the fiscal year, we've not given you the reconciled cash balance since then. So,
Can you or Mr. Sims explain what the 3 different funds, the 3 different accounts?
So, thank you. Mike Sims, 1157 Zayag Drive. Let's start with the easy one. Texas Range, that's our investment fund. So Texas Range is one of the clearinghouses down in Austin where cities, school districts, counties can invest funds on regular deposit. So that's going to get a higher level of interest, and I believe that those have been in the 4.5% to 5.5% range over the life of what those have been generally. So that's that particular investment portion of it. I believe there was some spending down of your balance since the May 2023 report. When I look at the unaudited, the unaudited number for September 30, 2024, your cash in bank and investments total was $2.4 million. And so I would say that that was our unaudited for end of September, $2,422,267. And I can tell you for sure 1.5 million of that remained in Texas Range. The other 2 are just references to different bank accounts that we have here at the city. So the cash and bank would be that which is in your bank account. The clearing fund is a note that says, oh, we had money that we needed to transfer to you, so undoubtedly that's going to be your sales tax that was sitting waiting to be transferred into your specific account at that time. But obviously that's a very dated number. I can get you a cash and bank for end of January of 2025, and I think what would be easiest to do is to have me send an email out to the group here and give you your investment number and your cash number, which I can get for you for your January 31st. I'll probably send an email within the next few weeks and let you know what your actually what's your next meeting?
it'll be the second Friday in May.
Second Friday in May will be after we report to the City Council the February 28th financial report, and that would include your investment and your cash in bank. So we'd be happy to bring that report to you at that time.
Thank you. One more question for me, and the board may have other questions. The 1.5 million that's held as an investment
Yes,
money, I'm surprised to see such a round number. So the interest earned on that, is it not reinvested in that account?
It is,
Okay.
and that's going to be probably without the interest sweep added to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a maturity date on it, or is it like a money market?
That's, I would say, yes, it's more like a money market. That's an investment fund that we can take into and out of on a daily basis. And frankly, those monies have just been in that investment fund for, an extended period of time.
Any other questions as it relates to the financial report?
Thank you for spending a moment with us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Raylan, I hate to ask you to do this because you do a good job of sending these out ahead of time, but we don't have a lengthy agenda this morning, so if you'll take just a minute and walk us through our outstanding commitments, I
Absolutely.
think that would be a helpful exercise.
Yeah. So on your facade reimbursement program, I'm showing your outstanding agreements. You do have Lula May Bistro, which is a 12-month lease reimbursement that would begin the quarter after she has her CO. So remember that we reimburse per quarter. She is scheduled to open in May. I know everyone has seen a lot of pictures. We've been working with her diligently. So we're just kind of holding that as an outstanding agreement so that we make sure we always keep that there. You also have Panda Burrito. Because even they love that name, Angie. It's okay. That will also have a 12. So we do, we will have a 12-month lease reimbursement for that business as well. And as you know, they've been open, so their first invoice will probably come in within the next 2 months. And in February, you approved a 12-month reimbursement for Simply Massage. So when you see your outstanding agreements there, that's just the money that we're making sure we're going to go ahead and deduct from your total budget. On your
Only three that we're doing reimbursements on right now?
Yeah, those are the only 3 outstanding. On your development partnerships, just know that these are a little bit different than your facade and lease reimbursements. We still have the remaining amount that was dedicated to the BMT Center. So you have made a second payment to them to reimburse for some of their architectural work. And we also, you were able to grant a $100,000 reimbursement to Lula May after her certificate of occupancy also. So we're holding that one as an outstanding agreement. So that one would probably be paid out. You would probably see that on your June statement. Downtown capital improvements is just some work that Mark Thacker has done on some of the facades and some of the renderings that we have for our downtown buildings. We're keeping up with the park capital improvements. You have a breakdown of all of the projects that were approved for this year and the expenses to date. So we still have a little bit of balance in there, which is good. Engineering, we'll talk about this during our budget discussion for fiscal year 26. I've got some updates on the Breezy Hill Park as it relates to the parking lot and possibly future splash pad. And then Rockwall and Adelaide, we recognize those as 2 projects. So those are just to let you know why that money's holding.
I was concerned with the Breezy Hill thing, because from my memory, I thought it was a go, and maybe 3 months ago, the narrative changed to like maybe possible. Is it something going on there that may not coming to fruition?
No, not at all. Glenn and Mr. Sims and I walked that area. There's obviously some road closures. We have the engineers looking at how we can make sure that the roadways that surround the park, that we're addressing the roadways versus parking, versus when we do those road closures, what would be the best place for a splash pad. And so we recognize those areas, and I'm anticipating that we would have a layout design that I could bring to Park Board and then also the paddock within the next month. So it's really been a matter of trying to condense where the road closure is and how we're going to accommodate additional parking. So we've been doing some calculations on that side.
The request I had from Glenn was associated with the house that's at the corner of Daniels and Polk. That house has historically parked either on the front or on the rear. When they park in the rear, they're using access from Polk to come in there. We'll need to make sure that our project allows them a more easy way to park in the front rather than parking in the back. And I don't want to move the project forward until I have a resident solution there.
That makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm familiar with that problem.
The sidewalks as well.
Okay, thank you.
And forgive me, I have forgotten what, as far as spending money, what our board has agreed to do in relation to that project.
We, this year, we were going to do the engineering and design work
Okay.
for the parking lot and get the proposals together of how all of that could be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't know this. Enlighten me. Who is Mark Thacker? Remind me.
Mark Thacker is the architect that's been working with Paddock, I think, since y'all started in 2019. He was contracted through the previous municipal development director with the city, and when we went through the RFQ process, he was then nominated again. He does a lot of the historical renderings. He's really good to call. He's done enough research on these buildings that when we call for a rendering or when a business wants to come forward with a facade, he's able to produce awnings and those renderings for construction.
I'll put that in my memory bank.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I want to add a little color to that. To me, part of the partnership that we have with Mark, and across the street is an example, the future medical office building, that when the owner of that building came forward with plans to redo, and we said, that's great, but there's some architectural elements you need to add to stay true to the history of our town, then the Paddock was willing to, help pay for some of those additions, aesthetic additions. And so I think there's other opportunities for us to do that on some other buildings that are in need of remodel downtown.
When people come forward wanting to do any renovations to downtown, I kind of grab him and we make sure that, because he understands the vision, and so he's able to communicate that with the other property owners.
Okay, good.
This board really likes to see his work.
Yes.
So if we're paying him to do something, we would like to see those elevation drawings when it makes sense. I think they excite us. All right, no need to, financial report approved as presented. This time we'll receive the Terrell EDC presentation. And for that, we'll call on Amy. Thank you for being here.
Can I pass those out? Okay, so I was asked to come and give a little overview of the two different types of EDCs. This has a lot of words. I am not reading all the words. I will be very high level. And there is a PowerPoint that I think I passed on if it comes on the screens. But if not, you have the paper version. I think she's working on it. And just to give a little bit more background, this conversation kind of started because we're in the middle of that strategic plan. And it's interesting to see their views of what Terrell kind of needs in the next 5 years. So this is just like an overview to remind everybody how we all work together. All right, let me know when you're ready. Yay! So that's what I just told you, so we can go to the next one, unless you need me to retell you that. Okay, here's a fun fact, because everybody likes history, or maybe it's just me. So we need to be mindful that this was passed in 1987, but it didn't really get funded till 1989. So Terrell started the Type A EDC in 1990. So they were one of the first, and I think that's very important to remember as we go through the two different types, is that background history. The rest of them are lovely words if you want more history. The next slide we pull up is going to tell you kind of how a Type A corporation works. And I have learned here in Terrell, people like to have a little high view, and then you'll like to go back and review data and then call and ask questions. So that is your pinwheel, so you can dive into that in a little bit. The next slide is where we get to the fun stuff. The cans. This is very specific on what a Type A can work on for primary jobs. And this is something we need to be mindful that we're kind of small governed on what we can do. We are allowed to do Type B projects if there is a voter approval. And that's something that we just need to be mindful of as that strategic plan comes through. Would you like me to read each one of the, yes?
Well, quick question on that. Vote of the board, of the council, of the citizens? Who
I
votes?
believe it has to go out to a citizen's vote,
Okay, thank you.
but I can verify that. I read a lot of state law yesterday. And then, so if you would like, I'm happy, do you want me to go to individual things and tell you some projects that we have worked on in Terrell that were part of those boxes? I don't know to what level you would like this history lesson of type A's and type B's.
Well, I think Sarah and I are kind of having a sidebar. I'd be curious to understand, so we understand that the type B was formed based on voter approval. So is that what that means? Or in the future, if we came to the EDC and wanted to partner y'all with something that's not one of these blue boxes, what would need to happen?
So the town square,
Great
you
example.
could come and we would go to voter approval to partner with you on that project.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help clear all the mud? Okay. I don't know to what level y'all would like, but I am available for y'all to call and ask questions.
So it says you can on
Yeah.
next slide.
Yep, the cannots,
Yes.
okay?
Cannot provide direct financial assistance to retailers. So if there was a retailer that our citizens were excited about, again, it's like development infrastructure is the extent to which y'all can participate in that? Or job grants, or not even?
I can only do business parks on the first page where it talks about types of things, aviation. So if you had it over by the airport park, I could incentivize because it would tie to the aviation. It gets a little sticky on how you can move those chess pieces. But again, we can always go to like a vote for it to work on a certain project. The goal is to make sure we're not incentivizing like a McDonald's or a Whataburger, a retailer to that extent. But it's all how you like package it. So is there retail in the front for a business park in the back? So am I just going through the land to go to my business park? And it's a residual.
So I know this was before your time, but do you know much about the Buc-ee's agreement? What role the EDC played in that?
I have read a little bit about that. I might be able to fumble a question you have, but if there's a specific question, I know Mike was active in that project and he can help.
He's conveniently stepped out. That's okay, we don't need to focus on that. It's just, that was a very successful project.
Do you know much about that?
Roll in.
The Buc-ee's, the Crossroads, we did help with the infrastructure, did we not, during the Crossroads project, which is across the street? That is retail, I would say. But we did help, as my understanding is right, happened kind of before my time, but yes, I was there, but I wasn't in it. But I believe we were able to assist in a lot of that. I know when we go to Recon, ICSC has a new name, go to Vegas, we do recruit for these businesses, and we help recruit, and we work as a partnership. The city comes with us, and we do recruit. So I'm not going to say that we're limited all the way, because we do outside things as well to help bring businesses to Terrell that aren't in the business park.
So, and we're able to do that under our marketing dollars as we are marketing Terrell as a whole.
If you wanted to help bring a grocery store to Terrell, what are some options you would have in your tool belt to provide incentive to them?
To offer sparkly fingers and introduce them to the right people.
Oh.
That would kind of,
Okay.
that's a retail, I can't.
Can you donate land to them?
We'd need to get an attorney involved on this.
Okay.
That was a Mary Gale, because I
These are
don't.
the kind of questions I think that we have and are trying to understand as we figure out a good way for us to work together and leverage both of our dollars.
If you go to the first page, like if we go back to the cans, like it's very specific, manufacturing, industry, recycling, distribution centers, warehouses, research and development, corporate headquarters, higher education. Like we have boxes. We've always been a team player, and we like to figure out solutions.
So I have a question, Amy. The box that's infrastructure improvements that promote or develop new or expanded business enterprises, do y'all have a limitation or a definition of what expanded business enterprises mean? Like, because that's a separate box from your manufacturing and industrial.
Correct. So expanding a business would be the new core. So new core came in originally, and that was a state RFP. And then they did an expansion. They also have another expansion on the horizon. So we have given job grants through if the next one.
And I understand that, but I guess that links back to, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, that relates back to the manufacturing. I'm saying this is a separate box from manufacturing. So under that box, new or expanded business enterprises, why could a grocery store not fit in that box?
Because they would consider a grocery store retail.
Sales tax.
Okay.
It's a type of,
There is a limitation on what is considered a business enterprise. It's not any business. There are limitations.
I want to make sure everyone on our board understands that both the EDC and the paddock are funded by sales tax dollars. Yep, I'll just leave it at that.
Which kind of business could come in under that box that Mrs. Heiser was talking about? Like, what kind of business could you fund the infrastructure improvement?
so anything that's a primary job.
Okay.
So any type of like manufacturing, industrial, like we made the Youngbloods, the project name, and they help do graphics and paint leaks, so we can incentivize that. But the year before, I was trying to work on a plastic molding, and he did bees, so we could incentivize that as well. So it's not limited, it's for primary jobs. Okay, you ready to go on to bees? Can we go to the type B? So then, type Bs came along. So then this is I really don't like to read a slide, I'm sorry. So, next page, what can a bee do? Look at that list, it keeps going. So you can do everything an A does, plus sports, related, like the restaurants, everything kind of comes in on that, on what, some of those boxes you were asking specifically, they're now defined here. Y'all are readers, I'm just gonna stand here quietly. Do you have anything you want to say?
This is the smallest print ever, guys. I should have brought my computer, so please allow me. This is a Buc-ee's 360 agreement, 380 agreement, I'm sorry. We were able to agree to offer $250,000 for infrastructure. So the ground, we just did the bottom layer. And then y'all brought over the water sewer, and I guess roads, is that infrastructure too, sir?
Primarily water and sewer on that.
But we did $250,000 for the Buc-ee's agreement. Oh, y'all, we did this, I'm sorry. Texas, sorry. Sorry, we did that on that end, on the Buc-ee's, and I do have the other agreement here too, and y'all said Crossroads, and I think we did the same for Crossroads. I can't get this to shut now.
And you have to remember that whole side was not developed. So there are plans to have business parks over there. So that was just the first step to get stuff, so then the business parks can come later. Because if you look at the master plan, there's business parks.
So I just want to point out on the top of this slide, the type B sales tax may be used to do all of those things and quality of life improvement projects. And I'm just going to say that today the voters have approved that 1/4 of the sales tax goes to do type B, which can do everything type A can and more. And 3/4 of our sales tax revenue is allocated to type A. And I think that's pretty common.
Just remember, it was started in 1990.
Absolutely. And has created thousands of jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars in property tax value that benefits our entire city. So, yeah, I think they've done an incredible job and continue to do.
Okay. Can I keep going a little bit?
Unless there's any questions on that slide?
Okay, we cannot, you cannot do facilities, if you look at this. The other thing is we need to be very mindful that whenever a town goes over 20,000 residents, the type B funding does change just a little bit. So we will need to dive in to make sure we completely, there are minor nuances. I did not. Well.
Haven't hit 20 official documents yet.
But you're very close, so we just need to be mindful.
Monitor the official documents.
Will it go off census data? So we won't have that until 2010.
We just need to be mindful.
30 or whatever. I've lost a decade. I'm sorry.
I just say this, that we just need to be mindful that there's slight movements within on 20,000.
Okay. 2 decades.
That's it. Okay, can we go to the next one? So this just as a overall big comparison between the two, how many board members, how the sales tax, the city limits, and the next 3 pages are listed out your differences between an A and a B. All right. Do you have anything you want to add, Angie?
We did, I'm just now seeing this presentation today, guys, I'm sorry. Me and Amy did not get to visit yesterday because we were both other places. We did also, and I don't know where it fits in this boxes because I'm just now looking, we did $1 million for the nursing school, and it was infrastructure also.
So that goes underneath the education portion. So there is training, job training classes. So that's where that would go underneath.
So that was another project that we did. So I consider that quality of life too.
Sure.
So I think it's very unclear what quality of life really is. Does that make any sense? And that's me speaking as me, Angie Cooper, not as me, EDC. But quality of life, is very vague between the definitions.
So would hospital be core jobs? No.
They have specific legislation in regards to a B and an A for hospitals. And at some point I stopped putting words on the slides. So if you would like, we have a joint meeting coming up, not Monday, but then the following Monday. If you want to dive in and specifically talk about what an A and a B can do on a hospital, we can have that data.
I don't know that that's productive at this point. No hospitals beating on our door, so just curious.
Yeah, no, but there is specific, just like I really want y'all to be very mindful that a B has changes when you hit the 20,000 population.
As well.
Okay, so what does this mean for Terrell? So, we did the primary jobs in 1990, and then in 2019, you did the type B, the quality of life. And then taxpayers must, you have to go to a vote if there's any changes, just so you know. The next one is just a fun little slide. What was the first economic deal? So I just did that for 1873. I figured we needed something a little lighthearted after all this. Okay, the next 2 are business parks, and I just want to make sure that we dive in and understand how beneficial a business park can be. So, the airport, it's over 2,000 acres. Please remember, you need extra room because of the runway and there's a lot of acreage that is needed around an airport. That alone brought in $2.4 million in 2023. I have not had the chance to pull all the data from 2024. Last year was a little wild in our office, and I'm a little behind on some data. While Mike Cronin, when we pull over, just so you can visualize this, it has 900 acres, and we have over $4 million that's brought into all taxing entities. So when you have these business parks, it is an enormous boost of revenue that brings into the city. And I think that's something you really have to remember.
Just because a lot of us have had a crash course in school finance recently in relation to the bond, a very important point I want to make, because I learned through that, is just because there's an increase in ad valorem taxes to our community, that does not create an increase in income for our school districts. So the school district is going to get the same amount per student regardless of how much property taxes we're collecting. It does absolutely impact the city, the county, Trinity Valley, I believe, but not our school district.
It also doesn't tax for residential with tax, not tax like tax. But if we did a residential development, that would put strain on our school district versus a business part, because then they have to educate more students in the limited capacity we have now. Just that.
And these are sales tax dollars, businesses typically. So not only are we getting property tax, and then you have sales tax dollars that'll come in as well. And typically, yes, the fire department goes out every year for annual inspections, but they're not called as often as they are typically for residential, statistically. Okay, what have we won? So, do you want to help tell any of these stories?
We've won a lot, I think. 1836 Farms was the latest one.
And we're working on some.
Big projects that we're working on that we can't talk
So-
about.
So AutoZone is probably one of my favorite stories. So they there was 2 sites in Texas. It was a state RFP. And the first site, they got lost. And they drove around. It's something like 45 minutes. And the decision makers were frustrated. And when they went back to the airport, then they landed in Terrell. And they were like, hey, where are we going? And they like drove them around. And they were like, here it is. And they were like, what, we're here? And they were like, yeah. And they're like, we're done. We'll go to Terrell. So the airport helped win that. And then Nucor and Walmart, one was in the morning and one was in the afternoon. And if you ever hear Danny Booth tell that story, I think he still has anxiety from it. So he had to have 2 different teams because he didn't want them to know when they were showing the properties on the opposite sides of the street if you go out there. So to get a big win like that takes a lot of effort, and you have no idea the backstories and the back information.
We are working on one now that will hopefully be presented to the council soon about a business in California.
Well, it's called, we've talked about to council, it's Youngblood, and they came out and they visited.
Youngblood. So we are working on projects that will bring in revenue for the community.
Any of these generate sales tax besides Buc-ee's?
Nucor does,
Okay,
1836.
1836.
okay.
Yes.
And then Walmart and AutoZone have well over like 1,000 employees. It's a pretty large employer base. And we've asked specific questions about when they're going to go over to AI, because then we know that will change some of the pay structure. And they're not looking at that today, but we're having those conversations. And Walmart, we're one of the few Walmarts that are actually cold storage, which means we had the power to support it, which is another big win for Terrell. Terrell is amazingly positioned with the rail having most of the property on the south side, so you can actually have it rail served. Then you have Interstate 80, Highway 80, Interstate 20. That's huge. And then the airport. We are a dream to come to. We also have Greenland. When we talk about what we have to site selectors, they're in awe and jealous. I told this one guy, I could piece together, he needed 600 acres that could be rail served. And this guy got so excited that I could do it. I just have to have certain zonings go through so I can start to piece these projects together and really work on some awesome things. So I go back, it's tough. Like if I can get the jobs in, so we have the salaries to pay, if I can go do that, then you at the B could, there's a way we could all partner together.
I would like to add too that I'm not throwing sticks when I say this, so please don't think I am. I went to Economic Summit on Wednesday, maybe it was Thursday, and it talked about balance. We have to be balanced in our community, and I do think we're balanced with business, residential, and retail for businesses. We're not a Forney, we're not a bedroom community. People who work in our business parks also go out to eat or buy gas and also pay sales tax when they do so, which helps generate the revenue too. So that was just interesting. They talked about the balance.
Oh, I think she led into the next slide, because those are all the awards we won, because we're so balanced.
Okay, sorry.
I think that's great. No, that, and then the last page, it's pretty amazing that a community this size has had not one, but two past board chairmen for the Texas Economic Development Council. And then Carlton sits on the IEDC board, and then I'm on the Texas Economic Development Board. And that is not something you should overlook. I know that Terrell is used to like big wins and big things, but there are a lot of communities that would want to have the reputation of just one of our big wins. Do you have has this helped at all?
Yeah.
Do you have questions?
What I would encourage the board is, I know that we have gone out and talked to you about the joint meeting that we're going to do with EDC. I was asked to be a part of that strategic planning process. Very excited for y'all to read some of the recommendations that are coming down from the consultants, because as I'm going through there, like I'm marking C for city and T for TEDC, and I think it's going to be really eye-opening to hear from a third party, which sometimes helps in our arguments, so it's not just us who has an opinion about something, but someone giving you back that bird's eye view. This is really great information. So just any questions that you have between A and B, when we have that joint meeting with TEDC, having the consultants in the room, I think that's going to be a really great time for us to address some of those questions and get opinions from both boards and kind of not fight it out, but have the communication about, the expectations on either side. The only thing that I would caution you about is, although you are the type B entity, when it went to the voters, it was very specific what those type B funds could be used for. So while you fall under the type B umbrella, meaning you can do all of these activities, you are limited to downtown and parks. So I think that's also where, we lean more on TEDC, because once you get out of the downtown district or it's not a community park, then, where else are we getting the assistance for those quality of life pieces? So that's really going to be the conversation, I think everyone kind of knows geographically where we are, but really understanding what everyone can do and what that means for the funding. So just if you have questions and you want to start throwing them out, that would be great, because I've compiled some notes with the plan. And we can make sure that we get some of those areas addressed during the meeting.
It's important to remember both of us are governed by city limits. We only have just so much room. That would be the one thing I would leave with, incentivate, it's always within a city limits.
I think there would be value between now and then to compiling a list of what's the word I'm looking for, like standout or example communities, and I'd like to understand how their 4A, 4B is structured. So you name it, Georgetown, Salina, I don't know, Waxahachie, or Sulphur Springs. I'd be curious, do they have 4A, 4B? Is their 4B limited to downtown parks? Are they 50-50? Are they 25-70? However that's laid out, I think would be valuable to understand.
So I think
model communities.
Sulphur Springs is all type A. I think Waxahachie is a B, and I'm not sure, what was the other one Salina, I'm not sure. So
Hoffman.
Are you writing, is somebody writing these down, which ones they are? Kaufman's B.
But also, I'm sorry, please send me those communities, because what I would also like to do is report back to you, because I know we're raising these questions because they have downtowns or parks or things that you really like within there. And so let me do a little bit of research on funding of those pieces.
Okay.
So we'll have that in, like how were they able to do the larger renovation projects or the larger park projects? So I'll be glad to let you know that.
An EDC can be A or B, or could it be an A and B and we be a B for our defined geographic, downtown area? Is that?
So we have,
Sorry.
so state legislation, they say when you get your sales tax dollars in, you can have a type A or a type B.
But not,
But you can carve out, so we have a portion of the sales tax dollars that are going to the type A.
Okay.
And then you have a portion that's going towards a type B. It's just when you decided Terrell went out for the B, they governed it down to only specifically work on certain things.
but the EDC could not be voted to do A and B projects? 'Cause
You're either an A or a B.
okay, there's not, okay, that's the question. All right.
A dollar comes in, it's either governed one way or another. And the major difference is, I have 5 board members, y'all have 7. So I can't be an AB, because it's like 5 or is it set, like it's one or the other. Does that help?
Yeah, that was the question. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you for the education, Amy.
One more,
Yeah, I'm right here.
with your report, this report tells what things we can dabble in for type B, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty updated. I mean, this is,
Oh, I read a lot of state law last night,
okay,
or yesterday.
all right, I'll look at it more. Thank you.
And I'm available for if y'all have questions, just call. It's a lot of data to receive. But I wanted to give you the base, so when we go to our joint, you have some like, oh, it's this or this.
Thank you.
Yes.
Amy. All right, no action needed on that report. At this time, we'll discuss park project updates, and for that, I'll call on Glenn.
Madam President, thank you all for all that you all have been doing for the city of Terrell. I want to make sure I acknowledge that we had a board meeting, park board meeting last night, and obviously we have the chairman in the building. Thank you for coming, Mr. Chairman. And we also have an additional board member, Ms. Yoakum, here from the park board. Most of the heavy lifting for these particular projects are being done by the staff, and I think it's always important to elevate and grow our team. So I'm gonna allow Ms. Dora Trejo to present, and Ms. Demeter Turner will assist her, and I'll be there for support, if that's okay with the board. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Good morning. I believe the one up there, is it it's not, okay. So you have a handout just while sorry. I'm vertically challenged. Okay. Yeah, so the one up on the screen is outdated. We did make a few changes after last night's park board meeting. So we do want to bring you the Ben Gill Smart Irrigation RFP that was opened on March 18th. We received one response from Pace Construction Services, or also known as Pace Turf Solutions. We presented the bid over to the park board last night, and their recommendation was to bring it forward to the paddock for discussion. Staff recommendation is also to reject the bid and get recommendation from the paddock on the irrigation. Okay. Windscreen quotes. We received 3 quotes for the windscreens at the pickleball and tennis courts from USA Shades, Pioneer Athletics, Fence Screens. Those are the 3 companies that we received quotes on. All fabric and material from all companies has a 90% blockage. We just wanted to make that note. We have worked before in the past with Pioneer Athletics. And this is a city-funded product, so we are not asking paddock for funds on this. As you can see, they have different numbers, a few depending on, I guess, the fabric and things that you decide. A few are more expensive. So we have those numbers on there for you if you want to give those a look. The following slide is that 90% visibility. We wanted to show you what that looked like, give you an example of the before and after. I do also want to make a note that these windscreens we're looking into having logo,
Just the word Terrell.
Terrell, on there as suggested by the paddock board. We have updates on our signages at our parks. We have new rules and regulation signs over at the pickleball and tennis courts as well as the basketball court. Just letting our residents know what equipment they can use at each court, what we allow at each court, and what they can and cannot do. In other words, there also is an emergency number on there in case of any emergencies. And I did put a few examples on there for you all to see. Our community parks, thanks to the paddock board for helping with this project. We have new beautiful community park signs. These are all over our community and neighborhood parks.
Thank you, JC, for the idea.
And last but not least, our municipal swimming pool. We are so excited for this swimming pool time. It is going to be open on June 3rd, so that's coming up. All registrations are going to be up on our website within 4 days. So on April 15th, people can start registering their kids for swim lessons. We also have started to receive applications for aquatic staff. We are hoping to hire 26 new staff members for the pool. And Tiger Swim, everybody's always so excited about Tiger Swim. There are now 10 teachers. The numbers are a little off on here. We did get more people. So 10 teachers and, did she say 9? 5 high school students signed up for training. They will start in a couple of weeks. They're all Terrell ISD, as well as 340 second grade Terrell Tigers from all of our elementary schools signed up for Tiger Swim. So very exciting time. We will also have the, what is it? Diving board ready for this pool season. So we're also excited about that. Two diving boards, yes. That is right.
Probably just low dive.
It's low down.
Used to be high dive. Good times.
Do you have any questions?
Questions for Dora?
Or Mr. Meter?
No questions, but I do have a comment. That was terrible. That's deplorable. You did a good job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Dora, oh, go ahead.
This is for anybody on staff. I knew we had a few issues with, I don't want to call it vandalism because it wasn't that, but some issues with our new courts, and that's kind of why we put up the signs. Have they been up long enough for us to track whether they're being effective or not?
I think they're being effective.
Okay.
Have not received any additional reports, believe it or not, so.
Got it. Okay.
Terrell, Texas.
Good, thank you.
The community, great job.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
I have a question for Glenn.
I appreciate that.
Glenn, let's talk about this irrigation.
Yes, Mr. President.
Where would you like to start?
You tell me. I'd be glad to start wherever you'd like.
Well, the staff recommendation is that we reject the bid. Can you tell us why?
I can definitely share that with you.
Okay.
In reviewing the bid packet, there was a requirement to complete all included documents, and this sole bidder did not complete the RFP. So that warrants to reject the bid and go out to rebid. Now, we do have an option. If the board decides that they want to move forward with this particular bid, we can do that. And then, once you make that decision, we'll go back, meet with this sole bidder, and review and request those documents thereafter.
How many bid packets did you send out? How does this process work? How many contractors were made aware of this?
Because I'm actually surprised that we only got one bid.
I'm not surprised. It varies. We cannot control or determine. We sent out 8 to 12 to individuals that we knew, firms that were out there, and it was posted, it was advertised, and there's really no mandate or requirement for any. We lobbied, we made phone calls, we pleaded with firms to bid, advertise, to complete the packet, the RFP. There was just no interest.
What was their reason for not doing it?
Time. everyone right now, there's more construction and more work than I've seen in years here in Texas, period. And there's a lot of busy people.
So when you say time, because we were saying we would like it done by a certain date?
No, time meaning the individuals. Let's take me as an example. I'm a general contractor. I have 18 jobs right now. And it's just one of those projects that the firms didn't choose to bid because they have an influx of workload. And this is not uncommon. It fluctuates constantly in this industry. So
I'd personally like to do whatever. If we sent 8 to 24 packets out, we might need to send 16 to 48 or whatever. I'd like to see more than one number because it keeps people a little more honest. I still believe in the true American dream of work and building a company, and I just think we need more than one bid. I would be more comfortable with that, even though you guys would have to pursue it a little more and put a little more labor into it. I apologize for that, but I'd like to see that personally.
no question.
Stephanie, because
No question.
for the amount of money we're going to spend on this, we need to make sure we've got what we want at a reasonable price and be good stewards of our funds.
Yes. And I know you guys weren't at the meeting last night, but that conversation came up, and that was one of our other reasons for rejecting the bid. We need more participation. So,
And we don't have a set time to get this work done, so
no, sir.
we can put it off until we get more than one bid.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Maybe the wintertime when they're not busy.
Well,
That's what I
and
was
that's-
fixing to ask, is that, you know, could we
So-
coordinate based on your budget projections for next year? I think that this is a good budget number, and just kind of coordinate when you hit those contractors. They tend to get more hungry when.
Yes, and I don't know if y'all recall this, but we brought irrigation quotes to you. What time of year was that? It was winter, when everybody was sitting home looking for something to do. And it was $130,000. It's amazing. I'm like, now you're getting a price for $500,000? I'm like, really? So we're all in.
Refresh
all
my
in.
memory, when you brought us the numbers before, what was the issue? Why didn't,
Because it's over $50,000, so we have to go out for an RFP. Now, obviously, we could have chose to do phase it potentially, but that wasn't the decision that was made. It was made to go out for bid. So when you take it out for RFP, it's just part of the business we're in.
You know the rough size of what is being,
acreage?
yeah, acreage-wise, or just kind of,
Off the top of my head, I believe it was, it's in the previous paddock packet. I don't recall. I think it was 4 fields, six. I think it was 8 total fields, 2 large fields and the remaining were small fields in that rendering, the drawing that was submitted. I don't have that with me.
What part of the bid did they not fill out, and why do you think that is?
I can't answer that, but the portion they did not fill out, if you go to, everyone has the packet here. The statement of organization, if you go just past that, you've got your proposer, then they should have filled it out, that's correct. And Form 7, so 7 through Form B does have portions filled out. And if you get back to the form, the most important part of this advertisement is your manufacturers that you're planning to utilize. We need to know the products. We need that information. We need to know, yeah, thank you. And I'll go through Form 1 through 10. You got to have that information. If you're submitting a proposal to us and you don't give us the manufacturers that you're going to be using, then I would be nervous. Now, I will say this, if this project was awarded to a contractor, they're going to be burdened with creating a design for the particular project by an architect, and that would have to come back for review and approval as well. Well, we didn't get to that phase. And on page 25 kind of lists what was required in the proposal. Page 25. Proposer shall complete all forms listed below. Forms not completed may result in disqualifications. That's why I said earlier, the paddock has the option to allow us, if you so approve, to go back to that entity and negotiate and have them complete the forms. And we could move forward.
Maybe they'll do it the second round.
Have they been notified of the rejection yet?
No, not yet, no, not at all. That won't occur until after a decision's made by paddock.
Does AJ know?
God, no, not yet. He's gonna know today, though. He will know today.
And I don't live in this space, but there are communities all over the Metroplex getting irrigation for their fields, and so I hate it. Our fields are in, y'all are doing the best you can, but I'm embarrassed of our soccer fields and our softball fields.
We're gonna go back and we're gonna get really aggressive. One of the things, again, we can take a look at, I don't know if y'all are interested, maybe perhaps, if we wait, that's time delayed, right? So we're going another season, having terrible fields, and it looks awful, and soccer is growing, softball is growing, and we wanna be present in the moment. Maybe consider doing a phase, because our goal is to do smart irrigation. So we can always do phasing to get something started, and once we create this, we can add to it for future.
I'm not opposed at all to that in the bid, to give them the option. If you're not willing to do the full however many acres, what are you willing to do, and what would that price be?
Yes, ma'am.
To show good faith on our part that we're doing everything we can to get this project moving forward.
Soccer fields first.
Good place to start, yes. And if they'd rather have a bigger job, maybe it's not, maybe this is too small for these kind of companies.
I think if we wanna go local, they're gonna want a smaller job.
Okay, I don't say that we have to go local. Is Melissa considered local?
No, but what I'm saying is you're gonna get more local entities to bid it, because there's a smaller phasing, they'll do smaller size projects versus them trying to establish the ability to fund a $500,000 project. Maybe the project's only $100,000. That's in their wheelhouse, and that'll force people to be competitive. Just a thought.
Are there any long-term issues with going with the pieced approach?
There is none. I think we have ex-officio Ms. Yoakum, which has been in this industry for some period of time, with the city of Garland, correct me if you will, and could you elaborate on your experience with that?
We're looking at for the soccer fields will be totally separate from softball. Because they all have their own independent controllers, their own independent water lines, everything's independent. So if you did the soccer fields, then, that would be fine. Then you could add the softball at a totally different job.
And as well, you can do 50% of the soccer field and extend the irrigation for the remaining fields as well. Same principle applies.
If the soccer association, I think they play games on half of it and they do practice on another half, or do they? Because I know when I went out there, it was kind of like this was for practice and this was for games.
They rotate. So what I would recommend, if the board so choose, we allocate a portion of the facility for games only. That's the location you do first. And then you extend from there. So that keeps all the practice traffic off of it. It's a beautiful location.
Yep.
So it becomes that destination.
Practice over there too.
Well, and
Be signage and that's very important.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's what Garland does.
yeah.
They have, if you have an association that uses a piece of property, whether it be baseball, softball, or soccer, they own the rights to that property, not the public. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Ours is not an association, but Excel does all the scheduling and runs the leagues. I don't know what
That's
the
correct.
agreement reads
You're correct.
as far as their rights to the fields. I don't know.
During season, they have exclusivity.
Okay. And I have noticed after rain, which that's when the fields get torn up, if it's still wet, people are out there practicing, they will put on their big screen, fields closed.
That's correct.
Now, I don't know who enforces that.
Yeah. It's hard to enforce because we do not have fencing or, so.
I'd like to add that when I was doing a youth football program, and we finally got the sprinklers for the football field, we didn't let them practice at all on the football field. The wear and tear, you're almost defeating yourself.
That's right.
With the wear and tear on the field.
Yes, sir.
So it's best to keep, if you irrigate that, it's best to keep those kids off of it if it's possible.
Yes, sir.
You know how many kids you got out and
Yes,
the
sir.
space you have to use.
Yes, sir.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to reject the bid as presented. Thank you, Hillary. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I don't know that this needs a motion, but it sounds like our feedback moving forward is we'd be open to phasing it. And hope to, the bid will read that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. President.
And timing is of the essence.
Yes, ma'am. Understand. Due diligence. Yes, ma'am. Due diligence. Yeah.
So expectation is still by next season, we've got some irrigation in place.
The half that's closest to the
Sure.
Excel, I think that's a great place to start.
Where
And
game
maybe
fields.
a beneficial,
Okay.
like, that you designate the difference between practice and play.
And it might help with community involvement if we cut it down to just a portion, and if they see how well that looks, and, you know, then the community will say, well, I think it's worth it, that we do the whole field. So maybe visually it might help.
Yes, ma'am. And I think what we'll do is, I hope I don't get in trouble. I got to look back at my staff. I'm thinking the next meeting, paddock board meeting, is May 6th. So is that enough time, staff? Please help me. Hello? Is that enough? Is that enough time for us to get something out, advertise it and bid it and get results back? By the next paddock meeting? Okay, so we're gonna go back and make some adjustments. We hear you. We are going to probably give them specific determinations on the products that they need to use. I think we're really, really good at this, but we wanted to keep it open initially. But I think that'll help us as well.
Mr. Lancaster, do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for your patience.
At this time, we'll discuss and consider FY 2025 funding recommendation for downtown Adelaide parcel, and for that, I'll call on Raylan.
So what I'm going to do is ask you to pass on the Adelaide parcel discussion, and I'm going to move into our fiscal year 26 budget, just so we can kind of talk about projects as a whole, rather than one specific, and we will touch on Adelaide, but there won't be any action to take on that today. So I'm going to take us back very old school in budget. If you'll remember, your capital work plan broke down your budget by category. And I really like. But I do understand why people would do that. Thank you so much. So, like I said, what I handed out to you was just kind of a reminder. It was your starting point whenever you were first handed your bucket of money. And it was kind of determined at that point where you wanted to focus, what percentage of your funds you wanted to go to what project. We have hit you with a lot of ideas in the past 3 years, and I think that we've made our way through, and we've got a really good application and grant process. A lot of the feedback that you will hear during the EDC strategic planning is people still evidently do not understand that there are grants available, or they're still choosing to say they didn't know that there are grants available. And I was just talking to Matt Oakley earlier, and he wondered how long this meeting would last, and I was like, you know, we don't have those marathon sessions like we used to. So I wanted to throw out just a very general idea to you. We've talked about large developments. In fact, whenever you went into this budget year, we had kind of allocated a pretty large portion of your budget for development partnerships. There's always a chance that that will come back or resurface whenever we're looking at these larger buildings. We're starting to hear some rumblings of some downtown property owners that may be looking at getting rid of some of their buildings. I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations getting
rid, you mean like selling? Okay, not.
No, just to actually consider turning them over to a new owner. We talked a little bit at our last meeting about what an RFP for the Chapman building would look like if that was a project that the Paddock wanted to get behind, so that we can kind of do what we did with Anderson, which is get the exterior, get the actual building downtown looking like it's ready for a tenant. We have people who have approached us. Angie and I have met with different individuals about food truck courts, whether we're looking at Adelaide. We also threw out the idea of possibly that going there on Rockwall. We also need to be reminded we have a lot more property just south of downtown. We've moved all of our quote-unquote downtown events that used to happen here in front of City Hall. We've now got a new footprint to push those events to actual downtown core. So we won't be hosting any more events in front of City Hall. Our downtown events will start happening downtown. So to start, I wanted to throw out an idea about our grant program. If you looked at your funding by category and decided an amount that you wanted to set aside in fiscal year 26 for grants only, I would like to really promote a grant application window. If you allocated the funds, we could take to civic clubs, downtown meetings, chamber meetings, Facebook, all of social media, that we have a 90-day window. Please turn in all of your Paddock facade requests within this 90-day window. What it would do is it would bring attention to the grants rather than it just being an open season for 12 months. It would possibly get a lot more stir, and we could get a lot more marketing on these grants. We would have some of the facades done by Mark Thacker. We could go and really talk to people about what you had mentioned last time, such as the awnings. We're able to really talk to people about what we've done, what the events that are coming in. But then you also have a cutoff, so that when we choose to have a marathon meeting, you can sit and listen to presentations. You would actually get to see all your applications at a whole and do some determination. And taking it kind of back to, and Sarah will remember this, remember when we used to do hot fund requests, and we would all stand up here and, ask for funding, and then the city council would know the amount they had to spend, and then they would choose how to allocate it between the businesses. It was an idea. Because we know that the grants have been out there and some people have participated, but I think it may be a good way to help kind of minimize and concise the requests that you're getting. It's a better budget measure for you. And then it kind of allows us a time period to really work with those property owners or tenants on next year's grant applications. So that was one of my first initial thoughts.
So this will be directed to the property owners?
And tenants, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why would you want to put it on Facebook?
But, because it is an open grant. Because I think a lot of the problem is the communication as it relates to things and how how decisions are made about downtown. And so I would really like to communicate that we have a set, we have a set application, we have a set application window. When that window closes, we look forward to you applying for fiscal year '27. And just to kind of bring some organization to this process. I think it's going to be a little bit easier for you to budget some of the requests that I know you've heard in the last couple of months, whether it be, a particular facility or program that's coming forward. Like I said, just kind of taking it back to those funding categories and just establishing those funds, and then let's figure out a system on how to apply and spend those funds down.
I like it, Raylan. Sometimes, we've allocated all the money, and then something really good comes up. We don't have the money to do. And I think it'll make people think a little harder.
I think the quality of your applications, it will, and what I hope happens is the quality of the applications that start coming forward, because I do think that people have appreciated that our applications now are followed up with a performance agreement, but it is making it a little bit more, it feels like it's more difficult on the applicant, but it should be work to receive grants for this. And so, the performance agreement is just kind of the justification and making sure that both parties did what they said they were going to do. So definitely it will need to be marketed, and I will be out there and we will talk to all the different groups. But I think being able to work during that time period, it's going to really bring the attention that the program has needed, and it's not just dabbled throughout the entire year.
And everybody will have equal opportunity.
Exactly.
And the marketing needs to have a map showing.
Yes.
That way we don't get the bowling alley out on the west
A-
side.
absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
'Cause-
It just say if you.
I know communication is huge. We need to fix that. My concern is that if you put it on Facebook and you have that map that just says these streets are available, you're gonna get a lot of negative feedback from people that aren't in that map.
It's okay, we're
And you're
used to
gonna get a lot of negative feedback from people that say, well, we got potholes, we don't need awnings.
we
know,
know
I'm just
exactly
saying.
how, I know, and we know how to maneuver through
There's a
those for
specific
sure.
central business district zoning, right? So it could be specific to the zoning that already exists.
Yeah, so in each one of those applications, we do highlight
Okay.
the location. So you have a smaller grant amount that is allowed for the downtown district zoning, which takes it out a couple of streets beyond CBD. Those are smaller amounts, but it is a very defined area. In fact, if you can't highlight your parcel within that map, you don't qualify. So your larger grants are for your central business district, and so there's two separate applications for that. Yeah, it might help. I don't,
Be 100% funding.
I would propose that it be 100% the way the application reads, which is matching up to, unless we want to amend the application. And that's the next question, because we do have an application. And so if what we're going to do is encourage people to follow the application process, then we need to make sure that we feel really good about the leverage and the wiggle that you have within that application. So the way your applications read is it's up to $50,000. There's a lot of communities who just do the up to 50, and they've been very successful. You can do up to 50% on an amount not to exceed, and so then you have a not to exceed number. But I definitely think going into this process, knowing what you're anticipating, And because you know that you've had mass quantities of different types of applications, so now that you know the types that you could get, we definitely need to have a very clear threshold going into this process.
I think we've discussed, I think we are kind of all in the same boat of we need to go on offense. Us sitting here and waiting for applications is not happening.
Right.
But how we go on offense, I think, is now the discussion. So for me, I'm comfortable with trying this just to bring more awareness, to put it in a specific timeline. I like a matching if the owner is making the calls. I mean, obviously we have accept or reject, but it's their design, it's their plan. For me, and maybe we consider this at another point in time, because we've also discussed as a board, we go to owner X and we say, we want it to look like this. Mark Thacker has said it needs to look like this, so we're willing to pay for all of it, but we're designing it. We are, I guess, overseeing the construction. So to me, that's the difference in those fundings, and I'm comfortable with how it's set up right now. I think we try this, and if we're still not getting the results we want, then maybe we move to the full-on assault. But I think we try this first.
Yeah, I do want for some of the property owners to participate.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, to do the match up to X amount, and then if it exceeds that, then possibly we look at reimbursement in the following fiscal year for it. Instead of saying, no, we're only going to do X amount, and if it exceeds that, then we'll give you reimbursement this year, and then next year it could roll in.
It could be eligible, yeah.
What if you had a meet and greet or whatever with all the property owners and explained it to them? And had everybody in the room and said, you know, in that map area, this is what we can offer you, and, you know, and if they're interested, and then they would come, you know? And we would give them a venue where we could explain and they could ask questions back and forth.
One other question that I had for you, because I know that we specifically talked about awnings. One thing that we could do is, because Mark Thacker is working on renderings between Rockwall and Virginia to add awnings to our downtown core. We could have a separate application, which is an awning incentive, which basically means we have the rendering, we will pay up to $3,500 or $5,000 once we have that set number from Mark. And then that, we're actually going out and we're asking those property owners to participate in that. And then hopefully at the same time, they could match it with, you know, if they're wanting to do paint or other things. I just didn't know if you wanted to have the awning specifically looked at separately, because that was something that you were willing to pay for.
That's a public improvement.
Mm-hmm.
That provides shade and rain cover.
Okay. So what I would like to do is, because we're not having marathon meetings, I had put some notes in here for fiscal year 25 about how we could. I just promised to have him out by 11, so we're still good to talk. But we have had we've had businesses approach us for different ideas. You have a lot. What I love is we have a lot of citizens within Terrell who are really starting to want to get invested and want to get involved in your downtown area. So please know that the things that you are doing is being noticed by residents and is being noticed by small business owners in other cities. The restaurants that are being added, the projects that are being talked about is huge. We also have possibly, you know, some bigger development discussions that could come into play. I think it's going to be really important to hear from TEDC and the action or vote that they could take on what type of project they would be open to helping support in the future. So while I had specifically received a request for the Adelaide lot, my thoughts are kind of going back to it's summertime, and I really want to do a summer music series, and so I think that with the closure, with some street closures and some coordination and some event planning, I think that we can provide what this applicant was particularly looking for on a particular lot, make the event itself happen, and give us some more time as far as the infrastructure and capital planning for the places that we have available downtown. And so don't want to throw out specific ideas to you, because right now it's about an event and it's about live music, and I think that we can make that happen this summer without it being a long-term investment on the applicant or with the paddock or the city. So I think that the event itself we can make happen, and I think that that's what's most important to the downtown businesses right now. And we can just keep kind of a holistic view of the different applications and the different funding opportunities you will have after we go through this application process. I just wanted to know if you'd be open to that. So when you look at your fiscal year 26 budget, because Tracy is definitely working on the budget, and I have promised to get her at least a proposed budget. These are not numbers that I'm asking anyone to stick to. Basically, it comes down to we budget approximately $1.1 million in revenue a year in the last couple of years. In fiscal year 24, we did spend down our cash budget. In fiscal year 25, I don't think you will do the same. So I think that you're going to go into fiscal year 26 with about 2.2. That's based on the audited numbers from 23. You'll go in with a $2.2 million cash balance, plus adding 1.2 on sales tax the following year.
Where do we go from, we had 1.2 cash when we spent $1 million?
So in 24, if you'll look at that sheet where it says 2024 actual, your beginning of year budget, which was your end of year audited for 23, was 3.2. You spent down $1 million out of your cash balance. So your end of year in 24 was the 2.2 million.
So this is not anywhere near accurate?
Remember, that was from 23. That's why it's just a placeholder.
Got
it. So based on your audited 23 actual, your 24, after you spent down the $1 million, your beginning of year 25 budget, you were at 2.2. Based on the amount that was allocated in your budget, you had agreed to pay down your cash balance about $288,000. I don't think you'll be anywhere close to that, because we didn't do the development partnerships. There were some capital things on the downtown side that we have not done. So I do not think that you will be spending any of your cash balance this year. So as far as a proposed budget for 2026, that's why I kind of wanted to take it back to that funding by category. Originally, you had about an $800,000 budget that you were looking at in 2019, and right now your revenue is coming in at about 1.1 million. And so if you wanted to look at an allocation of your actual revenue, then that would be the best place to start as far as budget planning.
What are your thoughts, board, on our cash balance? That's a loaded question.
I know, we're all going.
Y'all, we do not need a reserve.
We need to spend money.
We need to spend money. None of us are proud of our downtown right now. It's why the board exists, right. And we're spending, and we're planning, and there's, to the point that was made earlier, there's only so much we can do to get these downtown property owners to ask for this free money, and I'm kind of over it. So we need to spend this money in meaningful public improvements that improve the quality of life of our citizens. Things that people can use, like these parklets downtown. The city owns that Adelaide improvement, or whatever it is right now, park. The city owns the giant vacant lot that no one wants to talk about at the corner of Rockwall and Moore. Raylan, the city owns these empty planters. We've talked about slowing traffic. It's not happening. We've talked about being pedestrian friendly. We're not. I need y'all to speak up and how we can give staff direction on the highest and best use of these public funds. And I think we like the grant idea. I think we like the excitement it will build. That's what we're trying to pull out of these downtown property owners. Parks are still very much a part of what we do and how we should be spending these funds. It doesn't all need to be downtown. But if we're about to talk about 2026 budget, which will start in October 1 of this year, we need some more impactful projects.
I was gonna ask, what happened to the food truck thing that we talked about, and what happened to the pavilion and whatever on Adelaide that we talked about? Those two lots need to be developed for public use. Because I know when I take my kids down there and we walk, we don't have anywhere to go. I mean, we walk, we get out of our car, we walk, and we get back in the car. So there's got to be something to hold people downtown.
I think at a minimum, the Adelaide lot needs to be turfed, and some string lights, and some seating, and a playscape.
And that's cheap.
Relatively.
Just to make it a, yeah.
Because my kids are saying, well, there's nothing for me to do down there. I don't want to go down there anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's a family issue. So I just really want to see those two lots developed.
So the one thing that I do want to continue to throw out about the large Rockwall and Moore lot, I did put on here the wrought iron fencing. We know the dimensions, which is the back portion of that lot that has to be dedicated for South Alley. The reason that the city bought that lot is because once the medians are added to there at the railroad crossing, we're going to have a drive-through to get to South Alley. So one thought that I had, I think it's a visual thing when you look at that lot, it is a huge empty lot, and I think something as easy as adding the wrought iron fencing and then concentrating on the portion of the property that is left. There have been ideas come from the Heritage Society as well as your downtown tenants. They would love to see the rail car be moved to that area. It's hard because you do look at that large lot. I would like to go ahead and distinguish between what definitely is going to be future infrastructure and the remaining portion of that property that is really for downtown use, because it never will be a building. A lot of people have ideas about what needs to be built there, and that we're limited with what can go there. But I think being realistic about the remaining property, I think even the wrought iron fence will make our tree look better, because it won't look like it's in the middle of a large lot. So I am.
So the idea of a food truck park is not going to happen there?
No, here's the thing. Food truck parks can happen anywhere. We have the parking lots, we have the property. A food truck park is more of an event that we can make happen. There is no infrastructure that needs to go into that. We have grass lots, we have parallel parking, we have plenty of space. We just need to dedicate it. We shut down North Adelaide or South Adelaide, we have a food truck park. So that is an event and that's why I removed the Adelaide parcel discussion, because A food truck park is an event that will happen this summer. That will be our music series. We will dedicate space to that, and it will be a setup takedown.
I know I'm.
So we're looking for permanent stuff.
Yeah, I know I'm saying this like the beginning of April, and you know, summer is a summerin'. But I mean, like, what is the timeline on getting that turfed, getting some string lights, and getting some picnic tables? Like, I would like to see that happen, and the Adelaide shut down for food trucks to be parked in the drive-through of Adelaide. Like, I would love to see that all come together.
That
event.
lot is leased.
Okay. Until?
Currently, that lot is under lease until that lease is terminated. So I'm trying to work on no capital investment until we know what's going to happen on that property
I also wanted you.
soon. It's all under contract and applications for funding, and I'm trying to present to you an event this summer, how we are going to accommodate what needs to happen downtown without it being a permanent fixture. I had on here the turf and the lights and all of that, and absolutely, if we can make that happen, it is a great spot, and we know it is a super easy spot to make that
I
happen.
think we want that in our 2026 budget.
And so
If
my comment.
If it can happen, I would say we would be able to expend those funds in 2025.
Okay.
So if that is the spot that it can happen, I will absolutely be requesting that we spend down some of that development partnership money. And I've already got pricing for what it would take to immediately spin that into a parklet.
I would just say, in regards to the Moore lot and the fencing, I see where you're coming from on the fencing, but I also know this board was not super in favor of fencing the Adelaide lot, and frankly, it is an eyesore right now, and I know that there's limited control on that, which was also a concern. So I just want to make sure we're not repeating what I think we can all admit was a mistake at this point.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to move forward with that, we need to do something to make sure that that doesn't just become another big empty lot with overgrown grass, because that's
Right.
not.
Well, and then also, in talking to Angie, I don't know where, sorry. So like when we had the Christmas parade and stuff, we have to add like extra barricades because it's right there at the corner of Rockwall and Moore. So what I was thinking was more of like the three-sided, to where we have, because fire chief likes to get on to us about all the barricades where the bleachers and stuff are. So no, I hear you. I was just trying to come up with a creative way to make it look nicer, to add a little bit of safety and protection whenever we do have things on that lot. We are wide open to rail and also rock wall.
2 sides of fencing, the building, and then the front.
Yes.
Stay open.
Absolutely.
Could you do something, I mean, just because I'm picturing driving in and you just see fencing. Could you do something with a different type of barrier
Yes.
that's not fencing? Because to me, fencing makes it looks like don't use this.
Right. No, we can come up with some
Where if we
different-
did, I know there's a safety factor, I totally agree, because that's just, you've got a whole lot going on right there. But something not fencing that's more attractive.
We could do, there's a lot of things that I'd be glad to come up with some options for sure.
Planters with plants in them? Aren't they supposed to come, but I mean, aren't they supposed to be, they were supposed to be coming in this month or right?
All the orders have been made, and every single round planter has its own design, and it gets planted next week.
Awesome.
Every single round planter has its very own design. We have pictures, and they look
What about the square
amazing.
ones?
The square ones, we went back and replanted with the evergreen.
I saw some over here.
Yeah, so most of those are finished up, and your round planters are the picturesque Better Homes and Garden
Oh, awesome.
design.
And our
inside.
lights at night? And our lights at night.
They're
They change color?
We haven't had a holiday yet. I had wanted to surprise everyone on St. Patty's Day.
I was watching for green.
Listen, that was my goal. They even went downtown and we practiced. We were like going all the way down, and then we reached a block and it was like, okay. But I can tell you, we have Wi-Fi, we have the iPad, and y'all will be shocked at the next holiday when you would expect a different color light. We're just going to turn them on.
Red, white, and
Definitely by 4th of July. But no, we could do Memorial Day. There we go. We got it.
the planners, are they where they were supposed to be? Because where I'm going with this, if they're coming next week, if some big strong men are coming to plant these, whatever, are they also the ones that place the planters? Because some of them do not feel like they were put where they were originally designed to be.
We are rearranging
Okay.
planters.
Thank you.
We have taken into consideration those who do not want the planters in those locations. We are spreading them out. We are making sure that the people who love the planters and were upset that they weren't closer to them, we have taken all communication about the planters to make a new map.
This is exciting.
Now, if you're moving the planters, don't they have a watering system?
No, so there's a knob in there, and so what we do is once a week is we fill the actual planter.
They're independent.
Yeah, they're self-watering within the pot. So no, those can be moved, and we do.
I'm definitely gonna be talking to a couple of property owners, and I sent one last week to pick up a pack.
Yes.
I think staff has been really good to work with people, so I appreciate what you guys do. I was thinking about Phil Robinson and his request. Is there any way we can use funds for quality of life as it relates to certain holidays like Christmas, adding to that piece?
So that's the tricky one, because Paddock is capital expenditures. So the good news is, Phil allowed me to really get city council riled up because we were talking about Christmas in March. But we were able to, he was able to get some additional funding. The chamber and I got together and we are doing a hometown Christmas this year. We have a contractor that is going to wrap all of our streetlights with garland and lights. All of our downtown trees will have lights. We are adding 4 additional feet to our downtown Christmas tree. It's all contracted. We will have brand new banners, and it's going to be turnkey with, downtown will be lit up for Christmas this year. Yes, only warm white. Only warm white. It's everything in me to change the colors during the year. So no, we will only do warm white during Christmas. But we've got wreaths, lighted wreaths. We're really taking it back to just a hometown Christmas feel with garland and lights, and we just want it to shine. And so I think the council was very excited to be able to add that. We had looked at different options. I think over the years we've thrown out, tons of big ideas, and at the end of the day, we want it to feel like a small town. Angie reached out to our nonprofits. I keep losing her. So during the fall, we've talked about talking to some of the nonprofits about maybe doing a pumpkin patch and pumpkin sales there on the corner of Rockwall and Moore. Maybe the old school Christmas tree sales like the Boy Scouts used to do, and really try to bring some of those market pieces in for the holidays as well.
Go ahead.
Well, I hope whatever grand plan Phil and the council have come up with have big enough things that they make an impact. They're not little things that look lost.
We're not buying little things, that we are lighting up downtown. And that's where we're starting. That is, it's lights. The decorations number one, the decorations are very, very expensive. And so we think the biggest impact is what's being noticed and what's constantly being told to us and staff, and I'm sure Phil and all the other council members, is just, why doesn't it look like downtown such and such? And when you look at those downtowns, you don't pay attention to the big thing. It's the lighting.
Even in Frisco and Little Lamb and stuff like that, I can't even tell you what their decorations are, but I can tell you where their lights are.
So every tree, the median will be done. We're adding Christmas trees to the medians as well. And so we're going to start and see what the opinion is coming back, just lighting it up.
The irony of the Christmas tree lighting, which we go to every year because the kids sing in that, is it's dark. That lot is dark. You can't take pictures. You can't see anything. Even once you turn the tree lights on, I mean, it's just a big vacant lot. At what point do we as Paddock spend money on a design for that lot? So I love your idea of these other events that can happen there. Mm-hmm. We need to start looking at what is usable, what permanent landscaping we can put there, what permanent seating, should there be a stage? I don't know. And I don't know if this is a part of I don't think it's in our downtown plan currently. I don't remember seeing it.
No, not that lot.
But that might be a logical next step, is to have an architect or whoever.
Something?
Paver, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have drainage issues, can't we sponsor?
I think, no, but I'm just thinking we should probably pay for a plan, a design.
Yeah, and then ultimately that could go into any capital request, if you want a permanent fixture.
We can't even pay for like brick and mortar, like a little area.
Oh, yeah, that would be considered, yeah.
You're off the grass. Or
Yeah, anything permanent, you can do.
You can decorate that area every event.
Right, and then we would just add things.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right, and then something that we could add to. Yes, ma'am.
We could make it where somebody would want to.
Yes, absolutely.
Give us something to decorate. How about that? We can do the decorating.
So looking back I hope this is good feedback for our 2026 budget. I noticed on here, we were kind of hoping irrigation was going to be $100,000.
I know, just moving notes
So that probably
from year
needs
to
to be
year.
updated. Something else on here. Yeah.
So, Amy wrote me a note whenever we were talking. I do think you will also get some ideas coming out of the EDC joint meeting. You're going to hear some of the bigger ideas as far as when it comes to business and other conversations. So, if you are good with the idea of moving forward with a window of applications, let me work on the awning program and making sure that we have something good there. Perhaps what we could propose is our May meeting being only about wrapping up 2025 funding with your remaining funds. Sims sent over an email to the finance department to make sure that we open it up with a financial report so that everyone knows where we're at. We'll have a good baseline of the money that we have already dedicated to spend through the end of the year. So you'll have that bucket. And then you would have gotten some different ideas from the EDC. We've talked a lot of ideas, and so we can maybe perhaps start looking at those category fundings for fiscal year 26. I just want to make sure you have time. I don't want you to feel like you need to make decisions before you've heard all the information that's coming your way.
So one question to either answer now or then is, when we first started, we had designated $300,000 for debt service. Looks like right now it's $180,000 a year. Is that just for the lighting?
Yes.
The fields?
Yeah, that was still the only
long-term debt we have, and it's a 30-year note? Okay.
Yeah.
So give some thought, board, to some other 30-year projects that we may need to, go into debt for, something large and meaningful, but we've got some capacity here, is my point, to fund some more
30-year, million-dollar projects.
I think kind of a rock and a hard place I find us in. I would love, downtown lighting has always been a point for me, and that adding them to the buildings made pretty, but it didn't effectively change the lighting condition. And to your point, I think this is a city-wide problem, but particularly in our downtown, like at night, it is just very, very dark. So I would love to see us spend money on those. They're cute, but the little 7-foot-tall globe lights, they're just not getting the job done.
Right, absolutely.
But I know that there's also text dot requirements, like because it is a U.S. highway, I know that there's problems with that. But I would like us to find a solution. I don't want us to wait 10 years or 15 years until text dot comes through with their big trucks for us to fix what I see being a huge problem. And especially as we get businesses opening up downtown, I want people to feel like they can stay late downtown, and right now I don't think they do.
I think that is definitely, I can pull down some numbers because we had looked at that during Complete Streets. So obviously it's a multiple $1 million investment on the lighting, but it was something that we knew would have to be reserved for debt service. So I can gather that information and kind of bring it back to you so we kind of know an amount that we're looking at.
Maybe go ahead and put the stoplight. I would love to see all of this done in black wrought iron.
Yeah.
And have a consistent look from Virginia down to Rockwall.
Downtown district.
There needs to be a distinct look, and our capital plan supports that.
Okay.
And so I think we need to have a visual aesthetic that is immediately recognizable, and I think that those things can
They're in that core. Okay.
There's still plenty of public space in downtown that could use
Yes.
a facelift improvement before we start doing kind of private
Right.
business. Yeah, I think that the downtown lighting, street signs, all the above would go a really long way. I know that's text dot, but
Amazingly enough, if we're willing to pay for it, they will work with us. They love all the ideas we bring to them if you're willing to pay for it, yeah.
I mentioned before, we still have the old ugly galvanized street signs, and a lot of the cities now have the black ones, and the street lights or the street signs are lit instead of just having the reflective metal.
Yeah,
Little stuff like that could transform just the perception driving through downtown.
okay. Can work on that as far as the debt service. One question, Glenn already left, a request that I have for this board, something that you do not have to answer right now. We've talked a lot about, I guess it was a few weeks ago, we had some of the downtown merchants come forward to city council. There's a lot of discussion about the condition of the buildings, et cetera, and you know what everyone's doing. We had this conversation and how it relates to code enforcement. Just doing, because we go downtown and we're looking for specific things, so I chose to just do a roundabout of downtown and noticed a couple of things. A lot of times, even when we're looking at houses, we don't look in people's backyards. And I think that backyards will tell you a lot about people. And it does me. I'm guilty of it. I'm just saying, like backyards will tell you a lot. I think one thing that we forget about downtown is that our downtown's backyard is more visible than their front door. When you are on the Highway 34 bridge or coming down Spur 226 or even Rockwall Avenue, there's not a lot to the back of those buildings that tells me I should really drive around to the front and see what that is. So been meeting with code enforcement and reaching out to the individual tenants. There's really fixing to be a very big push to clean up our backyards. The city of Terrell pays really good money to rent property from Union Pacific Railroad so that we have actual parking spots and not just parking behind your door. We get a lot of complaints about high weeds and grass, but then we're also having to mow around vehicles and things that people are leaving at their back door. So one of my biggest pushes right now with the downtown property owners and tenants is going to be, let's clean up the back of the property. Use the parking spaces that are provided to you. We've got some murals that get covered up. We do have some green space back there that people have offered to, you know, put their own planters, which would mean their own plants. And on top of that, we know that South Alley ultimately becomes a concrete street. I would never want to spend a lot of money on South Alley until we go in and replace the water and sewer lines. However, I do think that a simple asphalt overlay from Virginia all the way down to Rockwall would make a bright, dark-colored roadway, and it would look better than what it is. And I think right now, it is about the aesthetics. We all have to do better, including property owners and City of Terrell, et cetera. So depending on that pricing, I know it does not sound very fun to participate in an asphalt overlay on South Alley. I just don't know if that's something that you would even want to consider.
It's in bad shape.
Can we pull it up on Google Maps?
It's in bad shape. I mean, behind the iris and stuff, there's potholes like, it's bad.
The other thing that I've got to coordinate is where the dumpsters are located. Our city ordinances say that all dumpsters are supposed to be in masonry enclosures. They clearly are not along South Alley. None of those customers have their dumpsters with enclosures. Other cities require one dumpster for every 3 businesses rather than people being able to participate in individual large bin pickup. And there's some things that the city can do to help partner and group those billings together. Mesquite was really good at getting that cleaned up, so I'm looking at that ordinance. So,
will help with that.
Yeah.
People won't have as much of a problem making those kind of more permanent fixtures if the whole space is a little more permanent.
Right, yeah. So, you know, I just working on the city side, because, you know, that's got to do with the city ordinances and the things that we're enforcing throughout. But I'm definitely working on a solid waste consolidation for that area. So I think that will help. Just when you leave, just drive down South Alley. We have and I know it's not that big of a deal, but it is when every other business has a huge, you know, green trash can, and then you still have the dumpster at the end of the street. I mean, it just, you know, so my big goal for this summer is to clean up the backyard a little
It's kind
bit.
of funny, when the big train came through, that whole area was completely full on both sides. And I drive by there occasionally, but I had a chair out there and I sat, and I looked around, and I kind of the same way, I was like, this is ugly.
Yeah, you do, but you don't,
I mean,
we don't pay attention to it. But if you're driving over the bridge, you realize you see more of that than the front of our buildings. Yeah.
So where are you saying the asphalt?
So the street itself is owned by the city. Where all the cars are parked, that is leased.
On the right side.
Yeah, so the city of Terrell.
Closest to the railroad.
To the
track.
railroad, yeah.
Okay.
So the city of Terrell does lease that right-of-way from UP. I wasn't here, but years ago, because we talked about parking for a long time, they did that lease all along South Alley to add parking spaces for downtown. So as you travel down South Alley, what you'll find is our customers probably do a pretty decent job, and a lot of those are some employees too, but there's just no determining, like, we can't get grass to grow when there's cars that are still parking on unimproved surfaces right behind their building. And I think my ask is, because you have a parking lot, I understand you would have to cross South Alley, but, you know, we've got some potential to really grow some grass and get it looking pretty decent. But
Where the red truck and I think it's an Equinox or something is parked, that is owned by the city? Okay.
yeah. So all of that is our right-of-way, which is why we've got to have the discussion about the dumpsters as well. It's just been kind of a free-for-all back there. And, you know, I think just spending a little bit of time and being strategic about placement of things, I think that could be a very easy cleanup spot for code enforcement in the city to hit first. And it be in partnership with those tenants who came forward who were asking for help with their buildings and were asking.
And I think it plays into the discussion we've had of when downtown is as booming as we want it to be, that space will be used. And right now, we've not had to address it because it's not really been used, but the train thing was the perfect example of, you know, everyone came to a 2 or 3 block area, and it was really fun, and it really did have that air of community that I know we all want to foster. And when you have, you know, Lula Mays is up and running and booming, and they're full of people, and we have Adelaide closed for food trucks, and those parking spots are taken up by food trucks, like, those people are going to have to go somewhere, and this is where it's going to go. So I think it's a very important priority.
I have even talked to Gentry, who is our fire marshal, of making sure that, you know, finding out, can we go ahead and label the side of the right-of-way that's closest to the building fire lane? And then, you know, yes, just because technically that is the fire lane for downtown. So there's some things that we can do strategically to clean that up. And then I really like the idea of, as that gets cleaner and people have heard us talking about, it is the opening of Town Square and other parts of the neighborhood. And I feel like we concentrate so much on Highway 80, but this is actually the side that feeds into our community and into our residents. And so this is going to be one of my big goals, is to clean up South Alley, with or without water and sewer lines. I mean, it can be pretty until then too.
I didn't worry about my backyard until my front yard looked good. We do need to do both, but I'm thinking now more my mind is going as I'm looking at the back of some of these buildings. I'm thinking about our vacant buildings right now, some of which are for lease, some of which aren't, some of which have leaking roofs. And has council, Stephanie, has council had any discussion about ratcheting down some ordinances to make sure that before a landlord is allowed to release their building, that it's being well maintained?
I haven't heard that discussion, but I definitely can pass it along. And we may need to start looking at some of that.
Second and third floors, and that's one of the reasons why Bardell moved, is because she had to cover up everything when it rained, because it would leak onto her product.
Nothing's been done about it before we slip the release sign on the front.
So
Inspection or something, maybe before we release it again. to
Yeah.
other- Yeah, okay.
So what I told council that night, when everyone was here, because I had a presentation for code enforcement, was the fire marshal and building official and I have met, and what we're gonna bring to the city council so that it's a city-wide effort, not individuals or tenants or anyone who's asked for it. These are the non-negotiables. We do annual inspections for commercial buildings. So it's not an I got you, it's we finally are organized and we're being very intentional, but having city council be able to make some, sorry, I lied. Oh, no, it's only 10. You're good, okay. I thought you were leaving. But to come forward with city council with a list of those non-negotiables that we'll be looking for and talking to our building owners about. Our zoning ordinances in our downtown district and also our central business district addresses restoration and maintenance of those buildings. And so I'm just taking a section of that ordinance that deals with maintenance that we've already listed out. These are the things that we need to make sure we're scheduling and looking for annually. So,
So there may need to be conversations amongst this board in the coming months about a fund. I don't know what this looks like, but a fund that's available because, so 4A, if they have an investor that wants to put in an XYZ business, but there's no power, water, sewer, then 4A will help to promote business and promote the economy. They will help fund the infrastructure because it's hard to get your money back on those dollars. We have all the utilities downtown, but they're also leaking. Of course, all these buildings are 150 years old. There might be a way for us to participate in that. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't want us funding sewer improvements, but roof, I don't know, guys, but these little businesses, these mom and pop businesses are what we want in our downtown. We want these buildings to be in a condition that is, allows them to operate. Like, I'm not asking too much.
Right.
What I don't want to happen is we tell the building owners, you've got to check these boxes before you can open, and so they just don't open. They hold this until they die, and that is within their rights to do so. Currently, I do.
You don't think they would just sell them?
No.
You think they would just hold that property, pay taxes on it?
Yeah. Yeah. Because some of them don't need the cash. So their investment, the value of that property over time, as everybody else continues to invest in their property, the value of their property is going to go up over time, more so than what they're paying in taxes. So they'll just hold it and sell, or they're not that worried about their lease rates because even if it just covers taxes. I mean, I don't know. I see them. We're in a very precarious state right now with these vacant buildings. One of which immediately released, and I'm curious if they had, it was where Barbara Booth's business was, next to Invogue. Yeah, and that's great. I'm glad it's not vacant anymore, but I'm just curious, what did they have to do? Did we make sure that roof wasn't leaking, those bathrooms
yeah,
worked?
no, and any time you have a new business open, they go through the entire certificate of occupancy process.
Okay.
So that is your shot. At that point in time, everything passed code. However, screen door,
Just on the first floor where they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be in,
it is to operate the business. So there are portions of the entire building that are looked at, then within that use footage.
So if they had storage or something on the second floor, that would be looked at? If they were gonna have storage or something on the second floor, and the second floor is where it's leaking?
Right.
They would look at that.
But luckily, we do have ordinances against people being able to use buildings as storage. So it kind of, right. So it's starting to kind of go into this whole, some of the updates that building official and fire marshal and I are looking at bringing towards the council is, kind of the vacant buildings. Like, what are our expectations when a building becomes vacant? There has to be a way that we can monitor, because a vacant building essentially becomes a fire risk.
Yeah.
More so than even a business that's there all day, every day. So you've got a really good team that's trying to be real strategic in how we look at, but we're making sure that it's not just central business district, because whatever we overlay in the CBD, we've got to say, because that isn't fair. If I'm a property owner downtown, now all of a sudden you're only looking at my property when, what we run into, well, so-and-so and so-and-so, and, then, so we're trying to make sure that we're coming at it from a health and safety standpoint. And then what can we do in the meantime to make it look better? But initially, we've got to address health and safety. And so a lot of your buildings, we don't do annual inspections on our businesses. even though we don't annually inspect our business. We inspect our businesses when they want a certificate of occupancy. So when you have a business who's been there for 5 or 6 years, there's a lot of things that can happen to that building over that amount of time that the next tenant really gets hit for. Because now, while the building should have been operable during that time period, it doesn't become a problem until someone else tries to move into it.
And that typically falls on the tenant, not on.
Exactly.
Because the tenant is the one that has to spend the money to get it.
Right,
For the
yeah.
occupancy, and a landlord, that's the.
Yeah.
Can the city fine property owners for not updating their property over a period of time?
That goes back to, the argument of it's my property. I mean, there's such a fine line
Yeah.
that, that's why our goal in municipal development is to make sure that we are addressing health and safety, because that protects property owners and tenants. And it doesn't have anything to do with the use of the building. It is just health and safety. And I really do think that we're going to be able to accomplish a lot just under that umbrella. Yeah.
Well, I kind of laughed because we went to see the play downtown, always do, and we were walking by trailer, and it had rained, and I was like, wait, where's the plastic? It's not over that one roof.
Oh, yeah.
So my immediate thought was they forgot to put it, and then my second one was, oh, I wonder if they fixed the roof. But every time it rains, for probably 20 years, you just expected to see plastic over the beds.
So there's a lot of, it takes a little bit of time. But with these are the things that we're trying to put in place, but we're trying to be really good about it too.
The city of Garland did this whole thing, because they redid their, and it took years and years and years. It's really been very successful. But there was this one guy that owned the old Western Auto downtown Garland, and it was a big place, huge. And he refused to do anything to that building. So every other area was nice, pretty, whatever, except for the Western Auto place. And finally, the city convinced him to put up some of these posters like we're doing. Like it's high, because the floor was crap. He had furniture in there. It was awful to look at, But he finally, they finally convinced him, or he passed away or something, but they finally have renovated that Western Auto bit. The whole downtown looked great, except for that one store.
Yeah, we gotta figure out how to get the landlords to take us up on these awnings and paint. Those are so cheap, relatively.
Yeah.
And
Most of our landlords don't live in Terrell, right? The majority of the downtown property owners are not residents of here.
True.
So
What
they
would-
don't see it.
What would
every
they
day.
say if we said, will you let us paint your building and put an awning on it? We will pay 100%. You've had conversations with some of them. That be received?
Yeah.
If they had some, Mark made some recommendations, they get to bless it. It's their property.
The one person that I've talked to is Hector Torres. You talk to a Mr. Torres who owns 4 buildings between Rockwall and Francis. I mean, there's 4 right there. We do have some property owners who own multiple buildings, so I think just tapping into a few of those, you've done 80% of your downtown.
And not everything needs to be painted. Some of it needs to be powered like brick. I don't want to just keep painting over brick, but
Let me tell you, it's
yeah.
a magic wand. Power washing is.
What are your thoughts on how to approach the awning program?
No, if y'all are good with funding the awning program, Mark Thacker is already working on renderings. I just told him, because it wasn't very much, just to do a render for each of the buildings, because he already has the back facade. So I can immediately start asking property owners. The one question is, we will have Mark Thacker have a heart attack if we even mention power washing some of these old buildings, because the mortar is sand.
Concrete. I'm talking concrete.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So,
That's what I'm talking about.
what?
Not
What?
building on
what I have asked,
I was talking about the building, so. good.
yeah. So the other thing that I have asked Mark Thacker to do is just kind of make a note about the condition of the outside. So it may just be we need to go in and replace some window trimming. And so what we may want to do is do like I don't know if it's and I'll get you the price, if it's a $5,000 maximum or a $7,500 maximum, and basically it is a front facade, which could include window treatment, awning.
Mortar, like even fresh mortar on that
Yeah.
brick will make a lot of these buildings look brand new. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have notes of like simple things that Mark sees without diminishing the structure of the building, what could be done. So, and
Is
we'll,
there a problem that the owners have said to you as to why their buildings are empty? I mean, is there a reason for it? Is there something is it a systemic thing?
it's interior renovation.
It's strictly interior
Mm-hmm.
renovation?
No, when you walk in, the walls need to be redone. There needs to be new flooring, new carpet, new restroom facilities, I mean, it's literally the interior condition of the buildings, which is not even, a lot of these places over the years have had the upgrade to electrical. They've had a lot of what's happened just to get COs. But so many times the tenants coming in don't have the money to spend on the interior construction.
And the buildings are not for sale, so a lot of
Right.
these tenants they're wise with their dollars. I'm gonna be paying $2,500 a month, I want to own this building, and the buildings are not for sale.
Right.
That's a problem.
So they do what they can with decorations or whatever, but, it's a huge cost just to put new flooring in.
Speaking of the Western, that's our Western Auto.
But luckily, we own our Western Auto. So it actually could be a good thing. I have drafted an RFP that is being looked at right now by our city manager in legal. Basically, it's an RFP to developers. It's a blank slate. It is, you propose a funding idea to us on an amount of investment, essentially for a developer to immediately take ownership of the building, get the structural components of the building up to standard, including exterior facade, and then you would have 5 years to build out the interior. And it's not double dipped. It's not, whatever happens inside this building, you don't double dip and come back and ask Paddock, like, now this is your building. The good sides of that. If you were to invest in the exterior facade of a building, it would be just like the Anderson, and although the building is empty on the inside, it has changed the aesthetics of downtown. You immediately have a piece of property now that is not on the tax rolls, that would be. And it would be at an appraised value equivalent to the investment of the piece of property. So property taxes are immediately taken into consideration. We have upgraded the aesthetic of downtown as a whole. And, then you have the potential of, we specifically put in the RFP, and there's still wiggle room. And when I bring this draft to y'all, we can talk through the details. But, your first floor has to be dedicated retail. We have to have so many square feet of office space. You have the availability to do live work in the upper floors if you want. So there's some guardrails that are put in there. Paddock and city having final say on the facade, but we're not going to tell you what we want it to look like. But that would be part of their presentation to y'all. And then the key is having that time frame. And so maybe it's you only have 24 months to have the first retail business open. So maybe within 24 months, you have the first floor ready with a tenant. There's different ways to look at it, but I do think that having even minor construction happening at the Chapman, because it is a city-owned building, changes the conversation.
I like the facade. I
Not historic. It's not how it used to look.
That was added in the 90s, maybe. Yeah, maybe the 90s or so. It didn't have.
It was the 90s. Mr. and, yeah, the owners had slabs of marble.
Right.
That,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
so that's, okay, never mind.
So anyway, that's a big, I think that would be a huge feather in the hat to move that building on to a better home.
So the city has no use for it whatsoever, for offices, for anything?
Not at the amount of funding it would take. I mean, because essentially you would look at the city of Terrell needing to expend the millions of dollars to make it into a city hall. So no, and ultimately, if what you're trying to do is retail downtown and sales tax and property tax, then, you know, the city-owned property doesn't bring any of that. It brings community service, but it doesn't bring any of that back.
On the cost to make it to where it could be occupied.
It is, yeah, it's just a debt.
That's better for private.
More possibility. So. You are gonna have quite a few people put in for that. I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised with the number of people. That's why we thought we're gonna have to go the RFP route. We've had several people ask about that building, 3 of which are businesses here in Terrell. Yeah, so it's kind of exciting. I purposely, and Stephanie knows, I love to mess with Mr. Sims. So the cover of the RFP is very pretty. Like, you should see the picture I have of the Chapman Building. Even y'all would want the Chapman Building with the picture that's on the front. And so, you know, I did my whole front cover for the RFP, and I just put it on my desk, and he was trying to talk to me about something else, and he was like, I'm so sorry. Why do you have this on your desk? I'm like, oh, because we're going to do an RFP. We're going to release the building, and Paddock's so excited. And so, you know, how do you say no when you say Paddock's excited? So, anyway, thank y'all for everything that you do. The meeting with TEDC is going to be huge. I think it's going to be very eye-opening, and I'm going to limit our May meeting to just project discussion and categories. Just dump in.
Next week, right?
Yes, week after next.
After next, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's like
What's
on
actual
Tuesday or something.
That no, not the 17th, 21st. But I'll send out, you'll get a packet. Yeah, you'll get a packet. So let me know if you need anything. I'm gonna look up those cities. If there's other cities that you want information on for that meeting, let me know too.
Here's